Chapter 7. The King MatNat Sphere. Upon entering the Thoth precinct, the Chancellor and Americana, holding Poppendackern, went straight to the reception desk. They took a number and shortly after were called. FOEDUS. How may I assist you? FOEDUS. We've come to collect the belongings that once belonged to Helena Blavatsky and transfer them to the custody of the new scholarship recipient. You are the new scholarship recipient, Americana? Yes, sir, officer. That wasn't a question. It was a statement. You're on every major media outlet across the Imperium. Everyone wants access to your recipes. Your face, those markings, and your outfit have already become a trend among the youth. Yay! Mommy is famous, shouted Poppendackern, drawing the attention of everyone in the precinct. Americana instinctively covered the robot's mouth, blushing. You will need to take the elevator, go down to the property room floor, and enter the cryptokashik. There you will find what you're looking for. But first, I must scan everyone's codes. That includes the little robot. I will also need the official letter from the Academy headmistress to archive. The Chancellor pulled a folder of documents from inside her mouth and handed it to the officer. He then scanned the Chancellor's wrist, Americana's QR codes, and Poppendackern's foot, where a barcode had been printed on the sole of his right foot. They all entered the elevator. An elderly gentleman was the operator. At his inquiry, the Chancellor handed over the document signed by the police officer. Then the elevator descended to the property room floor. The elevator doors opened. The operator said only, "Good luck." The Chancellor, Americana, and Poppendackern stepped out. The doors closed, and the elevator disappeared from sight. "Scared," said Poppendackern, lighting the built-in lanterns in his eyes. The environment was dimly lit. The Chancellor pointed to the floor, where directional arrows had been painted. They followed a long, narrow hallway. They walked for about 5 minutes until they reached the end. The corridor opened into a large room with black walls. Inside, there was a little girl in a red dress, with 2 large bows tied into her hair. She sat on a blue velvet divan. On her lap rested a large white rabbit. She observed the Chancellor, Americana, and Poppendackern with calm, focused eyes, gently stroking the rabbit as they moved. The 3 of them stopped in front of the little girl. The Chancellor then said, "FOEDUS, honey. We would like access to Helena Blavatsky's cryptokashik." The little girl stood up. "FOEDUS. Welcome. I am Lady Polula, and this is my kingdom. You must be tired after walking through that long hallway." She gestured to the divan behind her. "Would you like to sit down for a moment and rest?" "Yay, I'm tired," said Poppendackern, walking toward the divan. But he was held back by the Chancellor. "No," the Chancellor shouted, pulling the robot by the arm. "We're not tired, honey. Everything's fine, thank you. We just want access to the cryptokashik." Lady Polula ignored the Chancellor's reply and approached Americana. She stood before her, stretched out her arms with the rabbit, and said, "Hold my rabbit. He's very cuddly." Americana looked suspiciously at the Chancellor, who had a tense expression, but gave a small nod. Americana took the rabbit and began stroking its head. The animal started rubbing its pink nose against her arm. "Look, Mommy. He likes you. So cute," observed Poppendackern. Suddenly, Lady Polula's face darkened when she noticed her rabbit had taken a liking to Americana. She pouted and yanked the rabbit from her arms. "He's mine," said Lady Polula, her voice sharp with anger. She turned away, the rabbit in her arms, and walked toward a security railing behind the divan. The Chancellor followed her and gave a small nod, signaling Americana and Poppendackern to come along. When they reached Lady Polula, the 3 of them saw a labyrinth built inside a vast circular pit. It was deep and dimly lit. Beyond the zigzagging walls that shaped the path of the labyrinth, there was an even taller wall dividing it into two sections. Lady Polula stretched out her arms with the rabbit and threw it into the labyrinth. "No!" cried Americana, trying to catch the rabbit. But it was too late. It had already fallen. "Did it die?" asked Poppendakern. They all leaned over the safety railing, trying to see what had happened to the rabbit. "He's fine," said Lady Polilla, pointing to the rabbit, which had just reappeared into view. "But not for long," she added, raising a remote control and pressing a button. A gate on the side of the labyrinth opened. From the darkness beyond the gate, Americana saw eyes glowing green and large yellow fangs. Slowly emerging from the shadows, a massive black panther entered the labyrinth. "Tell me, will the rabbit live or die?" asked Lady Polula. Americana panicked. "What are you doing? Give me that remote," she screamed, grabbing Lady Polula's arm to reach the device. She managed to seize it and began pressing the buttons frantically, but none of them worked. Lady Polula pulled out another remote, hidden inside the sleeve of her dress. "You think I don't have control over this situation?" she said, locking eyes with Americana. "Madam Chancellor, do something. Please, help," Americana cried, turning to the Chancellor. "Just answer me. Will the rabbit live or die?" Lady Polula repeated. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die." Poppendakern began shouting, pointing at the panther approaching the rabbit. "Madam Chancellor, please do something. Stop this," begged Americana, clutching the Chancellor's hands. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die," Poppendakern repeated, his rhythm growing more frantic. "Okay, honey. She wants an answer." "Taking her control away won't help," said the Chancellor, looking around as if searching for something invisible. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die," the robot screamed, while the panther ran through the labyrinth, sniffing out its prey. "Madam Chancellor, please, don't let it die. Do something." Americana started to cry, pleading. "Okay, honey. I don't think there's a right answer to this," the Chancellor murmured, disoriented, trying to find a truth that didn't fit into logic. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die." Poppendakern kept shouting, pointing at the panther that snarled and drooled, just one wall away from the rabbit. "He's gonna live. He's gonna live," screamed the Chancellor in despair, staring directly at Lady Polula. Lady Polula pressed a button on the remote, and in the middle of the great wall that divided the labyrinth in two, a small door opened. Within seconds, the rabbit darted through the door to the other side. The panther lunged, but couldn't reach it. The rabbit was already far inside the second maze. Then, Lady Polula pressed another button. Two gates opened. From within, two panthers emerged, fangs bared, saliva dripping. They began racing through the labyrinth, hunting the rabbit. One of the panthers was faster than the other, trying to snatch the prey first and keep the whole meal to itself. "This can't be," said Americana, crying, both hands clutching her head. "But what? My answer was wrong?" asked the Chancellor, distressed, looking at Lady Polula. "Second chance. Will the rabbit live or die?" asked Lady Polula, raising the remote. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die." Poppendakern began shouting again. The panthers were racing through the labyrinth, ready to strike at the slightest movement. The rabbit twitched its little nose and patted its head with a paw, innocent. "He's gonna die. He's gonna die. He's gonna die," screamed Poppendakern, jumping and pointing at the rabbit. The panthers were just centimeters away. "Please, do something," cried Americana, hands pressed to her chest, as if praying for a divine intervention. Lady Polula raised the remote once more. Will the rabbit live or die? Then the Chancellor screamed, "Both, both. He will live and he will die. He will live and he will die." She shouted, frantic. The Chancellor, Americana, and Pappendackern stared at the rabbit in suspense. The panthers had already seen it and were preparing to pounce. Then Lady Polula pressed the button. Both panthers leapt at once, trying to sink their teeth into the rabbit. But it was too late. Beneath the rabbit, a hatch opened, and it vanished. The two panthers collided midair. Lady Polula looked at the Chancellor and said, "Correct answer." "How?" asked Americana, not understanding. Lady Polula replied calmly, "As long as neither panther leapt upon the rabbit and devoured it, both realities existed. The reality of the dead rabbit and the reality of the living one. In other words, the rabbit would live and would die." Lady Polula pressed the button again. A new little door opened beside the security railing. Inside, the rabbit appeared, walking toward the light. Lady Polula picked it up gently and handed it to Americana. "Your Pappendackern is right. He likes you." Then Lady Polula turned to the Chancellor. "I need the authorization signed by the police officer and a copy of the letter from the Academy's headmistress. If you have those documents in hand, I will take you to the desired cryptokashik." The Chancellor opened her mouth and pulled out a folder of documents, handing it to Lady Polula. Lady Polula took out a pair of special glasses, the same kind Americana had seen on the streets, on her way to the store Pupgin. She read the contents in silence. "Everything is in order. Please follow me." She turned and disappeared down a corridor. The Chancellor followed. Americana, holding the rabbit in her arms, followed as well. Pappendackern came after. They walked through a dim corridor. After nearly 3 minutes of walking, they reached another large room with black walls. There were red doors of all sizes. Some were so small that only a ladybug could pass through. Others were so large they could support the structure of an elephant. Lady Polula turned to the Chancellor. "Are you carrying the secret to the cryptokashik?" "Yes, honey." "Just a moment." The Chancellor opened her mouth and pulled out a small filing cabinet. She opened a drawer, flipped through the documents quickly, and said, "Found it. For Helena. Here it is. Honey." She handed a small vial containing a blood sample to Lady Polula. Lady Polula took the vial, opened it, and sniffed the blood inside. As she inhaled, it seemed she was drawing answers through scent. Interesting. Very interesting. Interesting and curious. Okay, door number 1.122, 131. "That one right there," she said, pointing the way. "What's interesting?" asked the Chancellor. "This cryptokashik you seek was corrupted many years ago." "What do you mean, corrupted?" asked the Chancellor. "This cryptokashik is an almost dead file. That means it contains information within, but it has no name. Its name was corrupted long ago, but the vial I gave you belonged to Helena Blavatsky." "Shouldn't the cryptokashik be called Helena Blavatsky?" asked the Chancellor. "You're right. This vial did belong to the user with the coding name Helena Blavatsky. But this sample tells me that what she left behind as an inheritance, being the first scholarship recipient of Equal 10 Academy, is inside this corrupted cryptokashik," said Lady Polula, pointing toward door 1.122, 131. The Chancellor furrowed her brow and asked, "But if the content Helena Blavatsky left behind is in this corrupted cryptokashik, then where is the cryptokashik named Helena Blavatsky?" "It's in the dead file. That means it has a name, as you said, but it holds no content." Lady Polula turned to Americana. "May I see your index finger, please?" Americana extended the finger of her left hand. Lady Polula took it and bit down. "Ah," cried Americana. "Don't hurt Mommy," sighed Poppendacern. But Lady Palula paid no attention. She pulled Americana's finger and squeezed it into the vial until a drop of blood fell inside. "Now you must press the blood from your finger onto the doorposts. First on the right side, then the left, then the top. Only then will you be able to access the Cryptakashic and claim it as the heir of Helena Blavatsky." Americana placed the rabbit on the ground and touched her wounded finger to the right, then the left, then the upper edge of the door. When the right was complete, the lock gave a sharp click and the door opened. Lady Palula motioned with her hand, indicating that Americana should go in first. Americana stepped inside, followed by the Chancellor and Poppendacern. Once they had all crossed through, Lady Palula entered as well and closed the door behind them. Inside, Americana found herself before an open landscape with a clear horizon and blue sky. In the distance stood a structure made of thin, vertical crystal rods. Placed so close together, they formed the silhouette of a container. Surrounding the structure was a vast field of red tulips, and a brick road led from the door to the container. "Is there an oponym inside?" asked the Chancellor. "No. He is on a mission in the upper levels of the precinct," answered Lady Palula, already walking along the brick road and motioning for the others to follow. Inside the crystal container, there was an altar at the center, also made of crystal. Upon it, an object shaped like a small cube. Lady Palula gestured for Americana to approach the altar. Americana stepped forward and faced the object. "This is the Seract cube. Everything that once belonged to the codename Helena Blavatsky is now being passed on to you. Americana del Silva, on the 10th day of the Lion, during the 8th lunation of the solar cycle of 2024, when the sun, at the 17th hour, shines at degree 17, aligning with the twilight portal of the feline constellation." Lady Palula signaled that Americana should hold the cube. She picked up the object. It was a cube within another cube, with their edges connected by thin, transparent rods that shifted between appearing solid and intangible. The object seemed to float, one cube suspended inside the other. Then suddenly, the interior of the crystal container rotated 360 degrees, revealing smaller containers all around. Americana placed the cube back on the altar and walked toward one of the smaller containers. It was labeled Dior 1947. It looked like a boutique display window with mannequins dressed in pieces from the collection. Americana looked at the Chancellor, then at Lady Palula. "May I go inside this container?" she asked. "Of course you may. Everything here now belongs to you," answered Lady Palula. Americana brought her hands to her mouth, speechless. She looked at the Chancellor for confirmation, who answered with a wide smile and a nod. Americana stepped into the Dior 1947 container. At the center stood a mannequin with a plaque, Full Tailleur Bar, wearing a white fitted jacket and a flared black skirt. Around it, cocktail dresses, afternoon dresses with floral prints, and an exclusive section of evening gowns. In another area, a space dedicated entirely to handbags, gloves, and shoes. "Mommy, try one of these on," said Poppendacern, pointing to the central mannequin. "Go on, try it, honey," encouraged the Chancellor. Americana walked to the fitting room, placed her denim bunny outfit into her backpack, and got dressed. She wore a cream jacket, a flared black skirt reaching her calves, white gloves, shiny black patent leather shoes, and a hat with a veil. Around her neck, a satin choker with a golden pendant. When she stepped out of the fitting room, she was greeted with applause, cheers, and whistles from the Chancellor and Poppendacern. "Mommy, you're glowing," sighed Poppendacern. "Honey, you look stunning," exclaimed the Chancellor, placing her hands on Americana's shoulders and guiding her toward a wall mirror. Americana gazed at her reflection. She had never worn a skirt, a dress, or high heels in her life. Jewelry? Not even in her dreams. Her eyes drifted down from the shoes to the necklace. But when she looked at her face, she saw the QR code markings and something more. She leaned closer to the mirror. She was wearing makeup. Her eyes were lined, her lips painted. Even under the hat, her hair was styled in an elegant updo. I've never worn makeup in my life. Look at my hair. Where did all this come from? Americana asked, alarmed. The Chancellor burst out laughing. Although your outfit comes from a 1947 Dior collection, all clothing in the Imperium is built with cutting-edge technology. They scan the person's face and body. Here, honey, our clothes don't have sizes. They adapt to the body. As for the makeup and hairstyle, they're part of a memory embedded in the choker around your neck. The jewelry scanned your face and hands, calculated the ideal makeup tone and hairstyle for you. But if you want to change it, just touch it. Watch this. The Chancellor touched the choker with the tip of her finger. The makeup changed color. She touched it again. Another layer appeared. She tapped the other side of the choker. Americana's hair turned blonde. Go on, try it, said the Chancellor, pointing to the spot. Americana began tapping the choker, and every shade and style of makeup imaginable passed across her face. The same happened with her hair, from sleek and styled to orange with braids. Suddenly, when she pressed the choker, Americana's hair turned neon green. The Chancellor burst into loud laughter. Americana pressed it again. Her lips turned green too. The two of them burst into laughter, laughing so hard they cried. Let's take a picture. Sighed Poppendackern. The Chancellor and Americana struck a pose in front of the stuffed robot, and its eyes fired a flash. Then Americana walked toward another container. Inside, there were 3 cars. A 1947 Cadillac Series 62 metallic burgundy for daily errands. A 1946 Rolls-Royce Silver Wraith, wine-colored with black fenders, for traveling. A 1936 Beauty Type 57 SC Atlantic, deep sapphire blue, for going to school. Do all these cars belong to me too? Asked Americana, incredulous, turning to Lady Polula. Yes, all these vehicles are now yours, answered Lady Polula. After much insistence from Poppendackern, Americana climbed into each of the cars and struck several poses for photos. It's a shame I don't know how to drive, or even have the age for it, she remarked, posing inside the deep sapphire blue Bugatti. That's not a problem, honey, replied the Chancellor. All cars in the Imperium, regardless of the year they were made, are equipped with autonomous technology. They drive themselves. Mommy is vintage, said Poppendackern, linking the year of the clothes to the cars. Exactly, Poppendackern. Lady Polula turned to Americana. Since you are the heir of Helena Blavatsky, everything that once belonged to her while she was in the Imperium now belongs to you. According to the records I retrieved from the blood vial, Helena attended Equal 10 Academy in the 1940s. That's why everything you've inherited is vintage. Just as Poppendackern said, Americana stepped into another container. Inside, there were all the school supplies one could possibly imagine. Several shelves displayed notebooks with leather covers and goldenrods. There were fabric-bound notebooks, scented ones, and even notebooks with edible covers and pages. There were planners for every occasion. One was made especially for school. Another was designed for writing while sitting on the toilet during number 2. Diaries came in every color. Some were black as a black hole. Others sparkled like radiant diamonds. Americana was delighted by one diary that asked how her day had been. She would answer aloud, and her words appeared transcribed automatically on the page. There were pens, pencils, and markers of every shape. Some pencils had triangular bodies. Some pens spoke aloud whatever was being written. Americana was distracted, examining the inkwell section. One in particular intrigued her. The label said it could be used both as ink and as shampoo for hair. Suddenly, the Chancellor shouted and came running toward her. Americana jumped in fright and nearly dropped the inkwell. "Honey, look at this." The Chancellor was shouting, holding a journal in her hands. "This is a Smythson Panama diary for 1908. Look at this cover. Calfskin leather. And the binding was done with hand stitching. Do you have any idea how rare this is? Wow, you are incredibly lucky. I think we've got a paper file among us," said Poppendacken, flashing a photo in the Chancellor's direction. "You nailed it, honey." The Chancellor smiled. "I simply love paper. Everything that comes with it. Whether it's a diary, a notebook, a planner, or a book. Each piece of paper holds a story or allows one to be told." She was now caressing the diary as if it were a baby. "Since everything here is mine," Americana said with a timid smile, "you can keep it." "Oh my God, really?" The Chancellor threw her arms around Americana. "You're amazing, honey. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart." Americana walked over to the next container. There, she found every type of tool, appliance, and piece of clothing a kitchen could contain. From the simplest objects to the most sophisticated, equipment a five-star chef would use. On a marble countertop, she saw *Zollingen knives with silver blades, *WMF cutlery sets in polished steel, *5 Sunbeam Mixmaster stand mixers. Close by, 3 gray Wedgwood stoves with black detailing, and in the corner, 3 red Hot Point refrigerators, each with a single door. "See, honey?" said the Chancellor. "Just a little while ago, you were worried about not having any supplies to begin your studies. Now you have a complete kitchen. Mommy can cook enough food here to feed an entire battalion," said Poppendacken, and they all burst into laughter. Americana opened every door on the refrigerators, the stoves, the cupboards, and the drawers. Everything was impeccably new, even though it had been manufactured in the mid-1940s. She could swear it had just come out of the factory. Thanks to the innovative technology of Novak's Dry Honey, everything you inherited now looks and feels brand new. The clothes, the cars, the school supplies, and everything in this kitchen. It all has the quality of something freshly made. This is because Novak's Dry made breakthroughs not only in the field of genetics and DNA, but also in the field of objects. What motivated the development of this technology, the kind that can be embedded into old materials and make them renew themselves again, was the environmental factor, the nature factor, the recycling factor. The Chancellor offered this explanation in response to the unspoken question Americana carried in her eyes as she touched each object, wondering how everything could seem so untouched by time. "Your inheritance isn't over yet," said Lady Palula, stepping out of the kitchen container and motioning for Americana to follow her. Lady Palula approached the crystal altar and asked, "Would you like me to bite your finger again? Or would you prefer to prick it yourself?" "I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll do it." "Someone help me, please," said Americana, terrified at the thought of Lady Palula sinking her teeth into her finger again. "Don't hurt Mommy," said Poppendacken, stepping in front of Americana with his little arms stretched out. "Here, honey. Use this," said the Chancellor, bringing a knife from the kitchen container. Americana pricked her ring finger and let a drop of her blood fall onto this crystal altar, following Lady Palula's guidance. The blood appeared to be absorbed by the crystal. Then the altar began to move. A fine, luminous crack opened at its center, dividing it into 2 halves, as if the crystal were being opened from within. From that first slit, a golden light spilled out through the seams. The two lateral halves slowly slid apart, creaking at a frequency nearly imperceptible to the ear. Next, more cracks appeared, like the breaking of an eggshell, and the altar split into 9 floating sections. Each part rose into the air and began to rotate. The light pouring from the center flooded the entire container. Suspended within it, slowly spinning, there emerged a small translucent sphere. The sphere looked alive. It pulsed, as if it were breathing. Americana felt as if her body had become a magnet, drawing the sphere toward her as it floated gently in her direction, radiating light. She extended both hands, and the sphere landed in her palms like a feather drawn by gravity. The moment it touched her skin, several fine red threads appeared inside it. They looked like veins. The light faded, and Americana held the sphere as if it were a baby bird. She felt a hand resting on her right shoulder and across her back. "Congratulations, honey. You've been accepted by the sphere." The Chancellor leaned her head softly against Americana's, watching the sphere in her hands. "Now that the King MatNat sphere has accepted you, I can say it. Welcome to the era of the games that govern the universe." Lady Polula stepped closer, gazing into the heart of the sphere. Suddenly, the moment of silence was abruptly broken by the sound of fireworks. The 3 of them, Americana, the Chancellor, and Lady Polula, all jumped at the same time. Papandakarn had just set off fireworks that formed the phrase in the air, "My mommy is the greatest King MatNat player." They all burst into laughter together. Then Lady Polula looked toward the main container door. The Chancellor's expression changed immediately, and she pushed Americana behind her with a firm gesture. When Americana made a move to ask what was happening, Lady Polula untied one of her hair bows, which turned into a whip in the blink of an eye. The Chancellor leapt forward and transformed into a lime green lioness. Then, a black blur passed at the speed of light outside the container. Lady Polula sprinted after it, cracking the whip. The Chancellor roared and also took off, charging toward the brick road. Frightened and confused, Americana turned to Papandakarn for answers. The robot's eyes displayed, in large red capital letters, "Alert mode, danger." "Stay behind me, Mommy," said Papandakarn in a deep voice. "What happened? What's going on?" asked Americana. "Activating bodyguard mode," he replied, raising his little arms into a shield position. 3 minutes had passed since the Chancellor and Lady Polula had dashed out. Papandakarn, now calmer, had downgraded his status to "Situation under control." "What happened? Where did they go?" Americana insisted. "My sensors detected high levels of adrenaline and cortisol. There was a significant increase in heart rate and blood pressure. Diagnosis: alert state. Danger," Papandakarn explained. Slowly, Papandakarn walked toward the main container door. Americana followed closely behind him. Once outside, Papandakarn activated his full scan vision. His head rotated 360 degrees, scanning every corner around him. Almost at the end of the rotation, his sensors went off. Something had been detected. Hesitantly, Americana peeked out of the container. But what she saw wasn't what she expected. The entire field of red tulips had vanished. In its place, there was now a vast field of daisies, surrounding the crystal container like a living tapestry. Papandakarn was among the daisies. He seemed to have found something. Carefully, he crouched down and picked up an object. He trotted back to Americana, his little hands extended. "Look, Mommy, I found something," he said, offering what he was carrying. It was a blue leather-bound book. In the center of the cover, a golden tree was embossed in high relief. Americana took the book carefully. On the cover, there was an indecipherable inscription: ZGXF*, ZD*, XDXA*. XAXC asterisk 11 asterisk XA asterisk ZI asterisk ZIXG asterisk XIXF asterisk BXD asterisk ZD asterisk XDXA asterisk XDXH asterisk XDXA asterisk XHXF asterisk XA asterisk ZA asterisk XDXH asterisk ZIXD asterisk SA asterisk ZGXF asterisk XAXKXG asterisk XFXE asterisk ZIXG. With her heart racing, Americana opened the book. She slowly flipped through the first pages. It was entirely written with the same symbols that appeared on the cover. The pages were yellowed and worn. Some of them were stuck together. What are these symbols? She asked Pappendackern. Pappendackern took the book again. He ran his scanning vision over the cover, then opened the book and flipped through a few pages, his eyes still analyzing. Undecipherable symbols, Mommy. I'm sorry. It appears to be an encrypted code. If you want, I can attempt a new reading after running some research. Would you like that, Mommy? Suddenly, they heard the sound of thunder ripping through the sky. Alert mode, danger, sighed Pappendackern. Quickly, Pappendackern opened a compartment in his belly and stored the book inside. His eyes resumed flashing the red warning message. He positioned himself in front of Americana, focused on the brick road. Then, Lady Polula appeared at the red door, running down the road toward Americana and Pappendackern. "Where is the King MatNat sphere?" asked Lady Polula, breathless. "But what happened? Where is the Chancellor?" QUETIONE Americana. We don't have time. Tell me, where is the King MatNat sphere? Said Lady Polula with urgency and concern. Americana extended her hand. She was still holding the sphere. Lady Polula took the sphere, looked at Pappendackern, and said, "Activate armored and secure vault mode." Immediately, Pappendackern opened a compartment in his belly. Lady Polula placed the sphere inside. Then she said, "Don't worry. Your sphere is safe with him. Follow me." Lady Polula, Americana, and Pappendackern headed toward the red door and exited the cryptakashic. The hallway they followed was dark and narrowed more and more, until it became so tight that Americana had to crawl. Lady Polula had led Americana and Pappendackern to the end of the narrow corridor, where they encountered a metal door with a numeric keypad and two highlighted keys, east and west, north and south. Lady Polula pulled a small card from the sleeve of her dress and handed it to Americana. "You need to tell me this code before the clock hits 9 seconds, or the corridor will keep getting narrower and we'll be crushed to death in here." "Alert status. Danger," said Pappendackern. "Wait, please. Tell me what's going on. Where is the Chancellor?" asked Americana. "I'll keep time and press the keys." "You need to read the code from the card," said Lady Polula, pulling a gold watch from the sleeve of her dress. "I'm not leaving until you tell me where the Chancellor is," Americana replied. Realizing she wouldn't be able to convince Americana otherwise, Lady Polula said, "The Chancellor was attacked by the AUDIOBOOK, who mistook her for a terrorist. The precinct was targeted in an attack. The terrorists are after you. Somehow, they found out you were coming here today." Americana couldn't believe what she was hearing. Her eyes welled up with tears, and all she could think about was the Chancellor. "Come on, read the card. You need to get out of here now. You're in great danger," said Lady Polula. "Is the Chancellor okay?" "I want to see her," said Americana, tears streaming down her face. "She's going to be fine. She was the one who asked me to come here and get you out of the building. Now read the card, or we're all going to die," insisted Lady Polula. Americana lifted the card. Her eyes, still watery, saw the numbers and words all blurry. "I can't." "I'll read it, Mommy," said Poppendacker. "No, it has to be her. From the moment she placed her blood on the doorposts, this entire floor responds only to her," replied Lady Polula. Americana wiped her tears, cleaned her nose, and raised the card. "When I press the stopwatch button, you need to read everything in 9 seconds, or we're going to die," Lady Polula reminded her. Americana took a deep breath. Lady Polula pressed the button on the stopwatch. 1 north, 1 south, 4 west, 5 west, 6 south, 3 north, 7 north, 2 east, 5 east, 5 west, 5 south. The timer buzzed. The walls began to close in. Lady Polula pushed open the metal door. Americana grabbed Poppendacorn by his left arm and threw him through the doorway. Lady Polula reached out to Americana and pulled her in by the arm. The heel of her black patent leather shoe got stuck and was crushed as this corridor sealed shut completely. They were now in a small room with white tiles and fluorescent lights. In the middle of the room, Americana saw a large ring made of polished white metal. She was standing before a jump chronos station. "You need to step into the jump chronos station to return to your home," said Lady Polula. Americana, still trying to collect herself, was stunned. That word home meant nothing to her in that moment. "Home?" Americana asked, just to be sure she'd heard it correctly. "Yes, home," replied Lady Polula. Americana tried to think, but at that moment, all her thoughts led her back to the Chancellor. "I have nowhere to go back to," said Americana, recalling her last moments in the common world. The last place she had been was a courtroom. Before that, a jail cell. Before that, another jail cell. Before that, Malibu. "You can't stay here. The police chief gave strict orders to get you out of this place," insisted Lady Polula. Americana, still trying to organize her thoughts, said, "I think I'll try to go back to Malibu." Lady Polula pressed a button on the side of the jump chronos station. A small compartment opened, resembling a vial. "I need a drop of your blood. Only then will the portal know exactly where to drop you off," said Lady Polula. Americana looked at her own finger and bit it. She squeezed it over the vial. A small drop of her blood fell. The portal lit up. "You can't take anything from here to the common world. You need to leave everything behind," said Lady Polula, pointing to a bathroom door. Americana entered the bathroom. Inside her backpack were her bunny overalls, a gift from Billy, and the prison uniform. She took off her Dior 1947 outfit and put on the prison uniform. Then she returned to the room. Poppendacorn clung to her leg and began to say, "I'm going with Mommy. She needs me." Americana looked at Lady Polula, hoping that, just maybe, she could take her Poppendacorn with her, a gift from the Chancellor. Lady Polula shook her head no. Americana picked up Poppendacorn, gave him a tight hug. The scent of cotton candy from the plush robot made her chest ache even more. She handed him to Lady Polula and walked toward the portal. A huge flash, followed by total darkness, filled Americana's vision. She wondered, "Am I home?